The Dark Paranormal is supported by BetterHelp. Now, you'll have heard me talk about BetterHelp for a long time, but I don't know that we've ever actually talked about how much people love this service when they use it. But you can check it all out yourself at betterhelp.com/reviews and see those amazing customer reviews in real time. The reviews are updated every day with hundreds of people saying how much they love BetterHelp and how helpful it's been to them. Please visit betterhelp.com/reviews to see for yourself. BetterHelp has an average live therapy session rating of 4.9 out of 5 based on over 1.7 million client session reviews. The feedback from people who've actually used this service speaks for itself. And as more than 6 million people have used BetterHelp globally, it's easy to see why. This consistent feedback from real users make it easy to see why so many people continue to choose BetterHelp. BetterHelp therapists have at least 3 years and 1,000 hours of hands-on experience. They also hold all required education, training, and certifications across a range of mental health specialities. And BetterHelp makes it easy to get started. Answer a few questions, get matched with a therapist based on your needs, and switch therapists at any time if it's not the right fit. See the reviews, see what stands out, and see if BetterHelp is right for you. Visit betterhelp.com, that's betterhelp.com.
Sleep Number's new collections are designed to adapt to the changing nature of your life and your sleep needs. Whether it's the personalized comfort of the Comfort Mode mattress, the targeted pressure relief of the Comfort Next mattress, or the Climate Collection that actively cools or warms to help you fall asleep and stay asleep.
And now, all beds are on sale during our biggest sale of the year. Save 25% on the new Comfort Next Luxe, plus free delivery on any mattress. Ends Monday, only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Dark Paranormal. Today's experience takes us to Plas Teg. That's a place in North Wales which was built in 1610, just outside the village of Pontybliddyn. It was built for Sir John Trevor. Its walls have survived Civil War raids, periods of abandonment and decay, and used as a courthouse and generations of death, scandal, and tragedy. But it's what may have remained behind that gives Plas Teg its darker reputation. There are as many as 15 spirits said to haunt the house. Apparitions of men, women, children, a grey lady carrying a candle, unexplained footsteps, voices. Screaming and crying has been heard by people when there's no one else there to make those sounds. And perhaps most ominously, there's a connection to Plas Teg and the notorious hanging judge George Jeffreys, in particular to a room in which condemned prisoners were allegedly sent to their deaths. So, knowing all of that, would you willingly walk through the doors of Plas Teg after dark? Would you explore its corridors at 3 a.m, knowing what countless others have allegedly seen and heard? Or more importantly, would you deliberately try to make yourself receptive to whatever these things are that are haunting inside its walls? Some would say choosing to spend a night there would be a fool's errand. But that's exactly what our listener Julian did. It was 20 years ago when he was a member of a paranormal society. But he still remembers the moment when an ordinary paranormal investigation became something altogether different. As always, we can't guarantee you any answers for what Julian experienced, but we will give you all we can so that you can make up your own mind for episode 7, season 25 of The Dark Paranormal. Hello everyone and welcome back to The Dark Paranormal. Yes, today's experience is a listener's experience from 20 years ago in a place reputedly so haunted, it's considered home to at least 15 souls. Souls unable to move on. A place that we've already took a deep dive look at in Dark Realms, one of our sister shows. Now, there are many reasons that places like Plas Teg are constantly mentioned amongst the world's most notorious dark paranormal sites. And today we'll hear just one of those. Now, of course, this episode was released 2 days early and ad-free for our Patreons, who not only keep the Dark Paranormal going, but also are, in my opinion, and I don't say this lightly, the most welcoming and enthusiastic online paranormal community anywhere. And believe me, after looking for such a group since the inception of the internet, I never once believed that they would converge based on a podcast I created. And trust me, I take no credit for them. I simply made the Patreon, and I was lucky enough to have these guys fill it. There's no hierarchy or members with gold stars, so it's not a place that you can go in and feel intimidated. If anything, the key word in that community would be respect. People respectfully discussing the episodes or other paranormal topics. Now, the link is in the show notes where you can get a free week trial for our Patreon, and you can find those early ad-free releases, along with 2 additional shows each and every week of the year. One called Dark Bites, where we take a look at a few of the shorter experiences we receive, and After Dark, where I give a more informal, uninterrupted, unedited 30-minute talk about either an episode or some other paranormal topic, just so you can see how my mind works in regards to theories, etc., as it bounces from thought to thought. You also get to binge the back catalogue of Dark Bites, which currently sits at over 250 hours of listener experiences currently only heard by our Patreons. So either click the link in the show notes or go to patreon.com/thedarkparanormal. In the show notes, you'll also find the link where you can submit your experience for the Dark Paranormal. Now, of course, as we enter the latter half of this season, we're looking for experiences for season 26, and there are very few spaces available. So if you have an experience that you would like to see me read out on the show, then send it in. The link is in the show notes, or go to thedarkparanormal.com and click Submit My Experience. But right now, it's time. So please, lower the lights, make yourself comfortable, and, of course, leave your disbelief at the door, as we hear all about Haunted Wales, Plas Teg, the Hanging Room. Hi, Kev. I'm a long-time listener, and I've attempted to submit this account to you before. Ironically, I submitted it on the very day that you released a Dark Realms episode about this very place. Strange coincidence. My name is Julian. Yes, really, and I'm happy using my name, as are other people named. Most people who know us are aware of our interests and what we do. I think there are 4 types of people in this world. Those who do not believe in ghosts and will not entertain the idea. Those who don't believe in ghosts but have an open mind and in the event of some experience or evidence would maybe reconsider their position. And those who believe through experience or evidence, and they've come to terms with the afterlife. And finally, those who would like to believe in ghosts but try to find some kind of practical explanation before conceding to the paranormal. I'm in the last group. Throughout my life, I've seen and heard many things which, despite looking for a logical explanation, ghosts are sometimes a more possible cause than some far-fetched seismic event or a locally focused weather phenomena. Although you've never met me, I'm going to ask you to give me the benefit of the doubt. And at the end of my account, I will give a possible more logical explanation, but even that will raise other questions. I'm now in my mid-50s, and this happened 20 years ago. Then and now, I work as an electrician, but I also deal with fire, intruder, and CCTV systems. I'm what most people would call a practical person. I'm well aware of equipment behaving in odd ways, and I've been to more than my fair share of old buildings and accessed quite a few spaces that the general public will never get to see. Working in the construction trade, I received quite a lot of stick if I shared my experiences with people. But quite often, even the most outspoken skeptic amongst them would relate a story to me on the quiet. As a child, I had odd experiences. I'd like to say I realized I had a gift, but it was very rare and generally scared me. My family's opinion is very much that there is no such thing as ghosts, but I always wondered. And this is what inspired me as an adult to investigate these things. Although rooted in the mundane practicalities of day-to-day life, both before and after this particular encounter, I do occasionally see things or anticipate events prior to them happening. Now, they're rare and of little use, i.e. no big lottery wins, etc. I've been lucky enough to work in some very interesting places though, and on occasions, I've had experiences. People may write these things off as imagination, and they might be correct, but sometimes things have happened with other people present. I feel these events are a little harder to dismiss. The story I'm about to relate to you took place in February 2004, in a beautiful but slightly dilapidated Jacobean mansion on the English and Welsh border called Plas Teg. I was a co-founder of a paranormal group based in the northwest of England and North Wales, named Gannon. Gannon was founded by Kevin Griffiths Bowden and myself in January 2004. We both had previous experience with other groups. Like so many other paranormal groups, we're a group of like-minded individuals, but unlike many groups, we're not given to gimmicky or wondrous electronics. No ghost baiting. Our method would be best described as passive observation. We do use audio-visual recording devices and shortwave radios for communications, and we do not use Ouija boards, no table tipping, or things of a provocative nature. When we visit a location, we simply observe as best as we can, and on the rare occasion that things do happen, we do go to great lengths to provide a rational explanation. And even if we can't give one, we seldom declare anything as paranormal or a ghost. As a general rule, we don't use mediums. Personally, I have met one or two who have known things that would have been almost impossible to guess or to cold read. But I've also met a fair few who fished so hard they should have bought a rod. For these reasons, we don't use mediums as their information is generally unreliable, unverifiable, and it can be misleading or they can feed into preconceived notions of a person and exaggerate the situation. I am eternally grateful to Kevin for his record keeping in the face of my apathy all these years. Back then, Kevin and I recently founded our own group as we wished to conduct investigations on our terms. Amazingly, Kevin still had our vigil sheets and a written account I'd submitted shortly after that evening. I don't have the best memory, but what really surprised me was just how close my recollection was to the 20-year-old account. And I guess this really stuck with me. On that cold but clear February evening, our group consisted of Kev, myself, and 4 others, including my father-in-law. I remember when we first pulled up to the place thinking, this is proper Scooby-Doo. And if this place isn't haunted, nowhere is. The evening was shared with another group of investigators that were resident at Plas Teg, and they allowed other groups to join them, for a fee, of course. There were around 6 of them, and they had CCTV cameras set up, which was a pretty big deal for the early 2000s. Our group was given designated areas, and the 2 groups remained separate. We coordinated around each other. And that's particularly relevant for our final session. This session taking place around 5 a.m. in the supposed hanging room. We had a tour of the building conducted by the resident group, and they answered our questions that we had. Unlike our group, they had a medium with them, and as I said, it's something I don't generally engage with. But they related various stories to us, and our investigation started later than usual, around 11 p.m. The vigil for us began much the same as every vigil has for the past 20 years. We split into pairs, and each pair has a torch, a camera, shortwave radio, and pen and paper. We are each assigned a location, and we quietly observe for around 40 minutes. I note during the first session that my imagination did indeed get the better of me when I mistook the noise of a mini-disc recorder as someone whispering. But I soon realized that I'd made a mistake. The next 2 sessions had little to report from anyone, and we were on a break at around 2:30 a.m. when the medium challenged us to open our minds. As we were so sure mediumship was rubbish, well, that's when things got really interesting. I and several of our group agreed to join in. So we closed our eyes and followed the medium's instruction in an effort to open ourselves up. I think myself and at least one other person from that group achieved this, as what had previously seemed a very large and very empty hall suddenly felt very crowded, as if thronging with unseen people. I recall immediately trying to rationalize this change in perception, as it was quite unnerving. Our group then took a walk around the building, with the medium accompanying us. Under her guidance, we tried to open ourselves to the residents of Plas Teg, and I don't mean the other group. This is an excerpt from my original account. We followed the medium's directions and tried to get to a state of openness. Almost at once I felt very cold, and then hot pins and needles all over. What then took over me was what I can only describe as incandescent rage. I was still very much in control and found it strangely amusing that I was experiencing this intense emotion. I told the group what I could feel, and the medium then asked me if I knew who I had. I said I didn't, but whoever it was couldn't hurt me. And then the feelings became stronger. If it were a person, they were incredibly angry and immensely strong. I had the feeling of being totally invincible. No one could oppose me. I should explain that at that point I mentally had told this thing that it couldn't hurt me. I then began to feel a burning sensation around my neck, which I told the medium, and she came over to me to take it off. The medium asked me again if I knew who I had. I said I wanted to say George, and it was then she told me I had the judge. This next part people will have to take on trust. The judge referred to is Judge Jeffries, also known as the hanging judge. The location had been used as an assizes back in the day, and one of the rooms, supposedly, had part of the floor removed to allow the hanging to take place. This is very relevant. At the time I said the name George, unbeknownst to me then, Judge Jeffries' first name, in fact, was George. This I found out sometime later, watching an episode of Most Haunted. As you can imagine, this caused me some surprise and also caused me to call excitedly other members of the group. But we moved on to a different room, and this room was furnished as a nursery. And I sat down here and attempted to open up. Immediately I got the perception of a child right in front of me, almost wishing to climb into my lap. I thought it was a girl, but the medium stated it was a 10-year-old boy. I was not comfortable with this encounter, and I didn't try to make any contact. When a session ends and we have to leave our assigned locations, as a coordinator, it's good practice to make sure everyone is accounted for. As such, I was the last person on the upper floor gallery, as everyone had gone down to the break room. I made a quick sweep of the area and I was heading down the small servants' staircase when I was physically hit around the back of my head This was not a light touch, but a proper clip around the ear. It rocked my head. As you can imagine, I was both shocked and thrilled. After all, isn't this exactly what we wanted to experience? Unfortunately, I had no witnesses, being the last man down. But nonetheless, it's happened and it's very significant to me. After this break, we finally got access to the hanging room.
If you like your true crime like you like your coffee,
Red Handed is the podcast for you.
it's dark, intense, and might just keep you up all night.
I'm Hannah.
I'm Saruti, and every week on Red Handed, we break down a different fascinating case.
From the most recent US trials everyone is obsessing over, like Brendan Banfield, Karen Reed, and Ellen Greenberg,
To the most unbelievable stories from around the world, like Erin Patterson, the Australian woman who poisoned her in-laws with mushrooms.
or the controversial case of Lucy Letby, the UK's now most prolific child killer. Or is she? We have our doubts.
There's nothing we love more than digging into every detail of the cases we cover, getting beyond a basic analysis and cutting to the heart of the story.
Red Handed has over 400 episodes ready to binge right now.
Plus, be sure to check out our weekly sister show, Shorthand, where we unpack everything from the Black Death to Area 51.
If you're looking for smart, detailed true crime with personality, check out Red Handed wherever you get your podcasts.
There's not much you can do about the money you have now. But if you want to do something about the money you could have tomorrow, Acorns wants to help. And with the Acorns Potential screen, you can find out what your money is capable of. Acorns is a smart way to give your money a chance to grow. It's easy. You can sign up in minutes and start automatically investing your spare money, even if all you have is spare change. Because Acorns grows with you. Whether you're just starting out or thinking about settling down, Acorns supports your big and small goals across every life stage. And the Acorns Potential screen shows you the power of compounding and how your money can grow over time. Plus, you can quickly adjust how much you're investing every day, every week, or month to make sure you're building toward your goals. Acorns is an all-in-one. No more finance apps cluttering up your phone. With Acorns, you can invest, save, and give your money a chance to grow in one trusted place. I've had and used many financial applications, but the specific thing about the Acorns app I love is the potential screen. Of all the apps I've used, it gives me such a clear picture of the opportunities for my cash to grow. So sign up now and Acorns will boost your new account with a $5 bonus investment. Join the over 14 million all-time customers who've already saved and invested over $22 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/darkparanormal or download the Acorns app to get started. Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. T2 compensation provided. Potential subject to various factors such as customers' accounts, age, and investment settings. Does not include Acorns fees. Results do not predict or represent the performance of any Acorns portfolio. Investment results will vary. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/darkparanormal. If you've been sitting on a business idea, Shopify makes it easy to make it happen. Everything you need to start selling is included and ready from day one. With Shopify, from the moment your first customer is ready to pay, Shopify Checkout helps all of them finish their purchases. And when they come back, their details are already saved. One tap and they're done. And because Shopify have built that structure to handle the setup, the checkout, etc., that means you have more time to grow your passions, to grow your business. And it gives you the tools to do it. And don't think Shopify is for people starting out. Shopify powers millions of known businesses worldwide, like Mattel and Gymshark, to small businesses like the one you're going to start. With Shopify, nothing stands between you, your idea, and a real business. So go make it one. Start your free trial at shopify.com/darkparanormal. Start your free trial at shopify.com/darkparanormal. I'll be the first to admit I am not the most organised man in the world, especially when it comes to organising a dinner party. There's usually always a missing ingredient, and normally it's the main ingredient, which then leads to a rushed supermarket trip to pick the best of the worst that's been left out. A problem that would simply not exist if I was stateside and able to use Omaha steaks. With the ability to get fresh Omaha steaks and keep them frozen in my freezer, I would never have this danger again. With things like their legendary steaks, their flavour-filled burgers, and seafood and chicken, it's like having your own trusted butcher and gourmet food shop right at home. And you may think, can frozen delivery be this good? Well, yes. Omaha Steaks are known for their meticulous aging process and vacuum-sealed individual packaging. And if you've never tried them before, start perfectly with the Burger Perfection Flight. The Burger Perfection Flight includes 4 pure ground versions of the following meats: filet mignon burgers, New York strip burgers, ribeye burgers, brisket burgers, and sirloin burgers. Try the Burger Perfection Flight at omahasteaks.com today. That's 20 premium steak burgers for just $79.99. And get $35 off with the promo code BEEF. That's omahasteaks.com, promo code BEEF for $35 off at checkout. Terms apply, see the site for details. This room was now used as a bedroom and quite honestly looked much like the other rooms. Earlier during a tour, Kev and I had hung back in this room, and when no one was looking, we pulled back a very large rug in order to inspect the floorboards beneath, to see if there were any indications that maybe a section had been removed. And we discovered there was a clear area where the floorboards were indeed a different colour and ran in a different fashion to the rest of the floor. It was certainly large enough for a person to drop through without touching the sides. I know that proves nothing. The boards could have been replaced for a perfectly ordinary reason. But maybe the stories were true. The assizes were a mobile court which travelled the land handing out justice. Hangings certainly took place, and for many and varied reasons. Judge Jeffries was a particularly unpleasant character who earned the nickname the Hanging Judge for his particularly harsh treatment of any and all who would come into his court. I know floor plans are a bit boring, but this part is necessary for what took place next. When you come into the hanging room, it's square, and you're in the left-hand corner. A large bed is to the right, and at the foot of the bed is a stool. Directly in front of you to your left was some built-in cupboards, and a washstand stood in front of them. At the end of the room was a large leaded glass window with a Victorian dressing table. The window revealed the beautiful Welsh countryside of fields and trees. Kev took up position. He sat on the stool at the foot of the bed, and I immediately felt very nauseated. I perched on the left side of the bed, and slowly the feeling of terror and desperation rose within me. But much like the first time, these were not my feelings. I knew I was scared, but somebody was absolutely terrified for their life, and this made me feel very uncomfortable. I stood up from the bed and began rubbing my chest and stomach in some attempt to reduce my discomfort. I now had my back to the wall facing the bed. Kev sat at the foot of the bed to my left, and the large wooden bed head was to my right. And I saw a glowing red circular ring shape around an inch across, moving slowly across the headboard right in front of me. I asked Kev to take a picture of the headboard. When on an investigation, it is protocol for a person taking a picture to announce flash, in order for anyone present to close their eyes, so as not to temporarily blind them. Kev said flash, so I closed my eyes. When I turned back to look at him, I could no longer see him. A man was stood between us. He was stood facing the bed head and would have been around 5'11". He had light-coloured hair, not quite shoulder length, with a white shirt or chemise. I was looking into his ear. He was so close to me, his right shoulder and arm would potentially have been inside my chest. In a second, he was gone, and I was left trying to explain what on earth I'd just seen. I stood facing towards the door, trying to articulate what I'd seen, and as I turned back to Kev, I saw a pair of bound hands thrashing around the floor level. For me, this proved to be the final straw, and I had to leave the room. My interpretation of this was that I'd witnessed this man's last moments. I saw the man before he took the drop, and I saw his hands as he was thrashing and writhing on the end of a rope. I remember trying to explain to everyone what I'd seen. Kev, who at the time had been looking toward the headboard, conceded that just for a moment he thought he'd seen something out of the corner of his eye. Our investigation finished shortly after, but I wasn't the only person to experience stuff that night. Another member also had experiences. Interestingly, even though we had joined with the medium to help us close, neither of us was successful, and we both continued to have experiences for the next few months. But they are stories for another time. The rational side of me wants to try and explain this all away. I can't help thinking that perhaps maybe we somehow managed to hypnotize ourselves, and this caused us to have the experiences that we did, but surely that would raise too many questions. And why would it continue for months afterwards? I've had paranormal experiences prior to and since that evening without a medium helping me open up, but nothing as intense or vivid as that man. That night, what I witnessed scared me at the time. I think that the first time you do have an experience like that, it is sort of life-changing and really does give you pause for thought. It certainly made me question myself. I think sometimes if you are just in the right place, at the right time, and in the right frame of mind, you might get a glimpse of past events played out for you. Often the odd stuff would happen when you least expect it, and when it's the last thing on your mind. If you're a ghost hunter, that's normally the time you're either setting up or taking down the equipment. Now, it could all be a load of far-fetched imaginings, but I consider myself lucky to have had these experiences. And it's kind of wonderful to think there's more out there that we just don't normally get to see. On the rare occasions that these things do happen, I don't feel fear anymore. I feel a sense of exhilaration. After all, this is why we do the investigations. This account has been rewritten several times. Kev even had the original vigil notes from the evening, and I had my original account from the time. I have many other stories I'd be happy to share, although none quite as intense as that night at Plas Teg. Many thanks, Julian. Well, Julian, thank you so much for giving us episode 7 of season 25. What I find fascinating about this experience is it is filled for me with what our guys who listen regularly know as what I call validators. So, in particular, Kev, in your story, also saw something in the corner of his eye, at the exact moment that you, Julian, saw the full apparition. Now, that's rare. Most of our submissions are solo experiences, and there is no witness overlap at all. So when we have that, I would class that completely as a validator. And also take into account, you are both, and indeed your whole group, are documenting what you are doing and what you are seeing at that time at Plas Teg. Also in the validation sphere, there are things like the apparition. You describe it so vividly and specifically. The height, its hair, the shirt, the proximity. It's not a vague shadow figure in the corner of the eye thing, although it was for Kev. And the George detail, naming the judge's first name before you knew it. And the George detail, naming the judge's first name before even knowing it and having it confirmed later. That's a strong validator. And I think it's a strong validator even if people could think perhaps you've read it somewhere and half remembered it. There's also physical contact. That clip around the ear, as you put it, is something I personally would have left a Kev-shaped hole in the wall. But with no witness, it's a bit weaker evidentially, obviously. But that's not to say I disbelieve what you're saying. This is an exceptionally strong narrative, peppered with little bits of information and facts and details, such as, for example, the inspection of the floorboards when you pull back the rug and you find a shape which would suit, well, that's probably the wrong word, but would fit somebody falling to their death via hanging. Now, that sort of thing is the validation that I love when reading these experiences. Because this experience in its entirety is somebody going out, trying to find evidence of the paranormal, and not only finding it, but having physical interactions with it. And it's very rare that we receive experiences like this where that's took place, or somebody's been successful. Usually, we may receive experiences from people in paranormal groups, but one individual is affected, and they are the only witness. The fact that you have Kev almost corroborating your version of events is spectacular. And I know at the start you said you don't use Ouija boards, but I'll bring up Ouija boards quickly just to say, I always find it fascinating when people say, don't play with the Ouija board, especially when people are looking for evidence of the paranormal. Because it seems like a bit of a contradiction when people say, don't play with the Ouija board, but we're also looking for evidence of the supernatural. Because it infers that if you use the Ouija board, something supernatural is going to happen. So it seems a bit silly to say, don't use that, we'll get the evidence we're looking for. And that's why Ouija boards are always a bone of contention for me. We all know it's the ideomotor effect, and as a tool for an investigative group, probably not the best thing to use. But also, if you're not going to use it, don't not use it on the basis of it will give us evidence. The other thing I wanted to say about this experience is when you described the red circle moving slowly across the headboard, I have seen an exceptionally similar thing. But mine was green. And it was in this very house, downstairs, approximately 2 a.m, and I was on the computer, and this was when computers had just came in, or the PC, and it was against the wall. So I'm basically looking at the screen, and behind the screen is a wall, and I'm on the internet because the internet was new and a new thing to mess around with. And as I'm doing so, to the left of me, something caught my eye. Now the room's dark except for the light from the screen, and as I look, it is a slowly spinning, 1 inch in diameter approximately, green circle, moving in a very slow, almost mechanically slow, but consistent speed across the wall, and then disappeared. Now, interestingly, I've also seen a red light. At an ex-partner's house, I was struggling to sleep, and I saw this red light in the top left corner of the bedroom, and assumed it was an alarm box in that particular room. When I woke in the morning, there is nothing in that corner. So this is not, seemingly, a rare phenomenon. It's something that people are experiencing, even myself. And I will never forget that green circle moving across. It was not full, it was the outline of a circle, like you would draw a circle, but it moved in such a mechanically slow way. I just froze. It was 2 a.m. It shouldn't have been there. The blinds next to me were closed. There was no way somebody could be shining a light through. It just shouldn't have been there. And interestingly, it didn't grow as it moved across the wall, which would sort of rule out somebody shining it from elsewhere, because obviously a beam would grow as they moved it from left to right. But it stayed consistently the same shape before literally blinking out of existence. But Julian, thank you so much for such a visual experience. I love when people send in experiences that are so descriptive that you feel like you're in the experience, even as a listener or as a reader of that experience. So thank you so much. Now, as I said earlier, if you have your own dark paranormal experience, no matter the length, we want to hear it. And Julian, that goes for you too with these additional stories you have. The link is in the show notes, or go to thedarkparanormal.com and click Submit My Experience. And as I say, it's irrelevant of the length. Some of the best experiences that we've ever had have been mere paragraphs, because often the best experiences are the ones that leave out so much detail that our imagination has to fill in the blanks. And we all have our own separate abilities to see the darkness, if you know what I mean. And of course, in the show notes is a link to our Patreon for a free week trial, the Dark Bites show, and indeed its back catalogue of over 250 hours is, for me, worth signing up for a week for free and binging what you can. And if you then wish to cancel, of course, you can do so. And yes, Patreon is a great way to support this show, but also you can support the show for free. Wherever you're listening or watching, just tap subscribe. It's something you can do right now, costing nothing, and it really helps us grow. Obviously, season 25 is the first season that we've branched out into video, and we look forward to extending what we do and how we do it with that as we look to move into season 26. And we have plans for season 26 to change things slightly again, because this show will always evolve, it will never sit still, and it will always do what you guys want. And more specifically, what our Patreons want. That's another plus point of being a Patreon. You're basically one of the show's producers. Again, the link's in the show notes. But so is that link to submit your experience. And in truth, I would sooner have your experience. Because what this feed is or has become, and indeed what that back catalogue of Dark Bites is also becoming, and I had no intention of this at the start, is almost a catalogue, a vault of current day paranormal experiences. Now, I had no plan for that to be the case when starting this podcast, but I am so happy that that's now the case. So any experience you have, no matter the size, please do send it in. But for now, thank you to each and every one of you. We'll be back next week for episode 8 of season 25. And then, of course, episode 9 will be our final of the trilogy of 369. So episodes 3, 6, and 9 of this season, we've taken a look at some of the lesser known paranormal cases that are out there that I believe deserve more attention. So, next week, episode 8, week after the penultimate episode of the season, and the end of our trilogy of the 369s, which is still to be revealed. But more information on that next week. However, for now, thank you all so much, and remember, when you're discussing the paranormal, always try and leave some of your disbelief at the door. And I'll speak to you all next week, right here on the Dark Paranormal.